So good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you had a good coffee break. And before the lunch comes to us, we'll be there in between your lunch and your coffee. But we'll not bore you, we promise, right? On behalf of the panelists, I assure you, we'll try to make it exciting discussion for you. And also, I look forward to some questions from audience. So just think of some good questions, and you can throw at some of us. But first, a big thanks to CII, and especially on Engineers Day, we are meeting here. And I believe sustainability is the theme for this year for Engineers Day. So we'll try to touch that as well, if possible. So big thanks to CII for organizing this year on year. Bhanu ma'am, especially, and her team. They did a great job for decades, if I can say so. So welcome. I'm Sudhir Gotu from a company called Lidec, a German MNC into services and manufacturing. We do some logistics, crating services, and we take up maintenance of plants and that kind of services we offer. Plus, I have my colleagues which also to introduce, and I told them I'll not give more than a line each, because otherwise, if I talk the all CV and biography of each, it can take half an hour. So let me start with Rohit Mantri on my extreme right. So he comes with the great experience from Tata Motors supply chain, and we'll be quizzing him with some interesting questions as we go. Next to him is Amit Borkar. He's from A. Raymond, and a company which is growing, he told me, at a pace of 20% a year, right? So that's very good, and we can ask him the secrets of that into new mobility area. And then we have Anil Sayal on my right. So he is president for Safe Express, and again comes with a very rich experience, and I'll be quizzing him on certain green areas, I hope, soon. And then we have Mr. Shubhankar Chatterjee from Cummins, also comes with an extraordinary supply chain experience, and he's been with companies like Schindler, Grease Cotton, and the like. So, of course, lots to hear from him. Thereafter, we have Ruchika Sharma. She's from KOEL, Kirloskar Oil Engines. And interesting to see a lady at the helm of plant manufacturing. So, great thing to hear. It's rare. So, we'll get to know and hear about manufacturing side of the supply chain interlinkages, from her. And last but not least, it's still there, Om is there. Second last but not least either. Om, who comes also with a very rich experience in supply chain. Plus, he's working hard on digitization within Schaeffler Group. So we'll get to hear something on that area from Om. And as I said, last but not least, we have Jayant. And Jayant is also, thankfully, one of the sponsors. So our lunch is paid by him. Thank you, Jayant. And he comes from the DP world, and we'll get to know more about it as we enter the session. So with that, I think I just want to open the session in terms of what it is, what we'll talk to you. And you already got a hint. With each line, I tried to show you the area which I'm trying to quiz them on. And my task is to get the best out of them. But as just as an opening, logistics is going to change in the next decades hugely. We all know that. We have seen the changes in the products, and automotive being the main talk today, main industry today we'll be focusing on. You have seen the big changes coming there, right? From ICE engines to EV. Going on, we are talking of course, green hydrogen is one of them, which is likely to come up. We'll find out as we go. I'll ask my friend. But the products are changing fast. Supply chain also has to change to adapt to the fast changes in this technology change, the product change. So in supply chain, you have all these apps coming in to help us. There's some cloud issues, which I think my friend from Tata, Rohit, can throw more light on the cloud engagement with supply chain and the floor below, the shop floor. So we'll get to hear that. So the massive transformation which is coming. Supply chain is also changing, but honestly, to me, it's not changing as fast as we all need to. We have to shift gears now. Even though we have seen some good changes, like the GST reform, someone mentioned, has helped us hugely in terms of changing or reducing the time of trucking or moving goods from point A to point B. So earlier you used to see trucks lined up in between cities or borders for days together. Today that's all gone. So you have probably cut down by 20-25% the movement time of trucks. So that change we have seen in our last 5 years, 10 years. But such many more changes are yet to be seen. And that's where we all have to be aligned and be ready to bring and introduce them, foresee these changes which are coming. Like I was at, I think, Audi plant at Neckarsulm in Germany. And they're testing this drones for line supply of parts. Amazing. So what this man was sharing was how the drones can pick up, let's say, again, we are talking in our pre-session. Tomorrow the cars may have a steering wheel which is dedicated specific as the consumer wants. So that lady might choose on the online, I want a pink steering wheel, while the gentleman there may want a black leather one. So you just put your order and everything, the chair size, the dynamics of cushion size, cushioniness of the chair, to the leather versus foam versus whatever you have, or fabric on the seats. Everything you can choose, select. So product, the car yesterday was a batch production out of conveyors. Tomorrow conveyors are going away. Shocking it sounds, but many companies are trying that. It's autonomous production. So you jump conveyors like standardized production. It was great during Henry Ford introduced it, I guess, in 1920, way back. So that's worked 100 years very well, but 20 years down, probably conveyors will be not seen as many. And you'll have this dedicated single product as required by Mr. X online asking for that car and quickly. So that's where supply chain comes in. So these guys were testing the drone, so the drone can pick from the shelf a pink steering wheel and put it online for the operator to fix it, or a black leather one if that's required. So that's a change we have to start. I mean, India, of course, is always lagging in terms of change. We say that pehle wahan hone do, fir yahan layenge. That's how we work. But that should change because we have to lead. And you saw the G20, how the Prime Minister is leading the country. So we should lead in supply chain as well. And with that, I think I'll now move on because you'll say it's a monologue, and that's not the intent of a panel discussion. So let me start with Rohit first. Are you ready, or should I jump to someone else? Yeah? So as I said, he has a tremendous background on how cloud is being engaged to help in supply chain and the shop floor. So how you can use these, these apps and these systems just to link with SAP, ERP systems, and there's a level above that, right till the top. So let's hear something on that from Rohit, on the logistics side.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good morning. First of all, the subject of today's discussion is how we can sense what is happening in the market, demand sensing, and how a company can actually respond very quickly to that, right? So there are two bits to that. One is demand sensing, which is an external thing, how you can figure out, and that's a topic by itself. I'll speak a little bit about the internal side, about how a company internally can become more responsive, and using Tata Motors as an example. So actually at Tata Motors, what we have done over the past 3 years, it actually coincidentally started with the COVID kind of a thing, but got accelerated because of the COVID thing as well. In order to be responsive, you've got 3 elements that any team, company, or whatever should be worried about, right? Within the company, we've got a value chain. For a company like Tata Motors, it's a long value chain. You've got dealers at the front end, your entire field staff. You've got 5-7 plants at the back end, and you've got a very large supplier base. How do you ensure that all of them are able to get visibility, seamless visibility back and forth across the entire value chain? That helps any at least internal signals disruption right? One is able to actually very quickly respond to, address, and kind of change direction as required. If there's a external signal coming, people can then rally around and move, left or right, whichever way. What we've been able to do by getting this visibility, as an example, one of the benefits is that we are now able to actually give what we call as available to promise kind of, dates. As soon as a sales order comes at a customer end, at the dealer end, we are able to respond and say, you will get your, vehicle, the vehicle that they have asked for on a particular date. This has happened. This is because the system is able to back calculate right from parts to, manufacturer, to dispatch, to reaching the dealer, what is the lead time, and it's able to give a certain date there. So this is one dimension, right? Other dimension is to make sure that various processes, functions, etc., are able to connect seamlessly together, right? For example, in your value chain, you've got the sales and operations planning process, which is the main backbone. We have been able to bring in also, things like, or we are in the process of getting manpower planning. When I say manpower planning, I'm talking about direct production manpower planning, also onto a single platform. All this, by the way, we have brought on a single platform, so everyone is able to actually engage end-to-end, right? So we've been able to bring manpower planning. We've been planning to bring in, things like sales incentive planning, etc. So you are able to, and by the way, the finance function also we've brought on the same platform. With that, what happens is, for any action to be taken, you are able to get, a very collaborative view very quickly and very responsively, and make sure that all aspects of that particular decision are covered, and we are able to take a call and move forward, right? So it actually starts changing the dynamics of how regular working of the company works, from a sequential handoff, various functions doing things in their various pockets. All the information is available for everyone to see. They are able to come together, and actions and responses are able to become that much faster because it is enabled collaboratively. So this is the second function. One was, the tying up the length of things. The other one was to make sure across various functions we are able to bring things together. Third bit is the more techie part, which is actually getting into the depth of across the various systems in an organization, right? One of the principles we adopted is to make sure that we'll actually run a no-touch kind of a platform, right? In which manual intervention is kept basically to a minimum or zero, right? So we've got what we call as no-touch metrics that we are running. Let me explain what that means. Whenever we are putting out a plan or anything, that plan from, at the highest level is able to get broken down to vehicles which belong to a certain plant, which also gets broken down to the components that are required for that. That gets posted to, various suppliers who are supposed to revert on that, and we are able to actually, get commitments, and we are able to work on that. Each of these things, one is a planning cycle, which actually sends a signal that this is what we want to do, right? The second thing is actually the execution cycle, where actual activity happens. All that actually then gets captured by our SAP systems, our enterprise level systems. We are able to actually roll it up, and then at each level, you are able to actually compare your plan versus actual, either at how is the plan versus actual of the supplier, how is the plan versus actual of your plant, how is the plan versus actual of your business unit, on the production side, on the supply side, on the supply to dealer side, what is the performance of your dealers, right? Because all the information is coming bottom up. This also is changing the way the company is now beginning to look at how metrics are kind of viewed, right? When we say metrics, all these metrics now are actually becoming either customer centric, right, or at an organization level, at a business level. In the past, when such an integrated system was not there, you would have performance metrics coming from various divisions, and usually it starts getting some sort of a divisional flavor to it. But here, because all of it is actually being mathematically calculated in a no-touch fashion, all of it truly, whether it's a good picture or bad picture, shows the business performance or your delivery to customer, etc. So all these things brought together, these three dimensions through technology, is kind of helping us become very much more responsive and agile as compared to how we used to do things in the past, right?
Thank you, Rohit. You rightly said how no-touch systems are coming in, and agility is the word. And I think Anil wants to add to that.
So, Rohit has kind of nerded it up enough for you. So, to what I wanted to add a point, but let me not, because you were kind of given it enough, the nerd quotient. But let me give you a little different element of this. I'm not sure, unlike me, I've learned logistics more on the field, but I'm sure there's quite a lot of us here who've learned logistics in the classrooms and theories. I remember there used to be this game in logistics, which was one of the 101 games, which is called the, that beer game. I hope, some of you know that. Okay, so all of you are from the field logistics guys. So there used to be this game, I'm sure there still is a game which is being taught by whoever is teaching supply chain. I'm sure CII Institute of Logistics is doing something on that. But there's this, the very first game they'll teach you when you go to a classroom, they'll put all the students in a similar lineup and saying, Rohit wants to be the guy who's manufacturing those beers. Jayant possibly is the consumer of all those beers. Sorry, Jayant. But in this case, all these fellows sitting in between are all the guys in the supply chain. Somebody's selling it, somebody's distributing it, somebody's moving it, somebody's manufacturing it, somebody's procuring raw material and all. And if I can kind of, in a most somber sense, tell you that whatever Jayant wants is never going to get, because whatever Rohit is manufacturing is going to be completely different than what he wants. That was the end of that game, and virtually every time the result is, in every classroom, in every part of the world, it's the same. Nobody knows how this Chinese whisper of sorts will reach to Rohit. So what Rohit had actually given you a nerdy answer is an answer or a solution to that problem, so that seamlessly that information can flow from right up to the consumer level to the production level, and you get a beer which Jayant actually wants.
Thank you, Anil, for the perspective. And as he says, the bear, but not to worry, Jayant, we have only hungry bears here. And since you're paying for lunch, we'll not bother you much on that. We'll ask you a soft question.
You'll get the lunch anyway.
Oh, thank you. So lunch is assured. So we can ask you a hard question now.
Whether Rohit delivers the goods to me or not, he's going to get the lunch.
Now, as he says, that's a nerdy kind of level. So let's stay at the
No, so I can relate to what Anil and Rohit have said. And a classic example I would like to give, and since most of the global auto OEMs are exporting and India is an export hub, see, most of the auto OEMs are also exporting as far as the Latin American countries. So if you take an example, say, of Chile, where you have some requirement of vehicles, and the transit time from India to Chile is going to be 2 months. And the lead time for production, which Rohit will say from Tata Motors, that the lead time for order placement to production is going to be 3 months. And the poor guy in Chile is supposed to have an inventory of 1 month. It adds up to 6 months. So can you ever answer the question, how much vehicle I have to order today, 6 months down the line? This is the complexity of forecasting. It is absolutely impossible for anyone. Leave apart, 1 month, 6 months is absolutely no go. But then, do we have the systems to actually take care of this? So Rohit's mention of the systems is exactly this. So if Rohit is able to get the visibility of what is the actual day-to-day retail of vehicles, which is happening in Chile, on a daily basis, he would be able to tweak the supplies. And he would be able to produce the vehicles which are relevant to the market. And the complexity of the SKUs and the number of type of vehicles and the VC numbers in Tata Motors is humongous. Having spent a lot of time in Tata Motors, I know this. So this is, Rohit, so one of the suggestions is again, so while most of the systems are there wherein you have the stakeholders who are coming on the platform, we should also get to a situation wherein we have the external stakeholders coming onto the platform. External stakeholders like logistic service providers also, and the dealers and the distributors also. I am sure that you have the DMS system, which is the dealer distributor management system, and on the upstream, probably you also have the vendor management system. But if these two are integrated properly, I think that is the best solution which can ever be given.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Chatterjee would like to add.
I represent Cummins, and we are closely related to Tata Motors because we have a joint venture running for last almost more than 25 years, Tata Cummins. So I can tell you the level of disruption that is coming on both sides, the product side and on the supply chain side. Let me explain the level of disruption on the product side. So diesel is a vehicle where we both, Tata Motors and us, we are mostly into diesel vehicle manufacturing. And you heard Mr. Gadkari saying that they're going to impose 10% tax and all. So eventually diesel is going to fade away. But is diesel going to go away very soon? I guess not, because global trend, if I look at North America and even Europe, the long haul will still remain with diesel for at least next 15 years minimum. Long haul means I'm talking of more than 500 miles because battery is still not geared up to that. Even Daimler and others are looking at still moving with the diesel for next minimum 10 years. Diesel long haul will migrate to most likely to fuel cell, not battery. Short haul, which is up to 500 kilometers or 500 miles, let's say 500 miles and less, can move to battery, which will be intra-city, not intercity, and maybe mostly for the last mile delivery kind of thing. But then, so that graduates to battery. And intermittent, what is going to happen is, and which is where we have set up a new joint venture with Tata Motors called TGES, Tata Green Engine Solution with Cummins, which is with the hydrogen IC engines. So we are in a very advanced stage now. We will, in fact, this March, we will roll out hydrogen ICE vehicles with hydrogen ICE engines, where the vehicle will be powered by hydrogen. And hydrogen will run on an IC engine. That's first time it's going to happen. Already our competition have done it, but what we are going to do is the state of the art will be the direct injection. So what I'm saying is that the product which is diesel, fossil fuel, will graduate into battery, short haul, fuel cell, long haul in the long run, intermittent, it will run into a H2 IC engine. Okay? So see the amount of disruption which is happening in the product side. Going back, naturally the supply chain completely gets disrupted. So one part has to move to battery, other part has to move to fuel cell, and the third part has to move to H2 ICE. And the complexity which it brings to the system is that all the automotive manufacturers today globally, who are typically IC engine suppliers in the supply chain, let's say manufacturing pistons, connecting rods, rings and all, the volume for passenger is going to move to battery for sure, or either hybrid or a fuel cell. So the volume is going to shrink significantly. And hence there will not be many suppliers who will be interested in supplying those components in the long haul. So that's another challenge for the supply chain. So, and then what happens is that, as Mr. Guttu was saying, the customer will have a choice to pick which kind of vehicle he wants. So on the supply side, there is going to be enormous amount of volatility in the demand versus supply. So what we are doing is on the product side, we are actually graduating into all the three varieties, which is your H2 ICE, battery, and eventually fuel cell. Fuel cell is a little distant in the supply chain. And on the supply chain side, we are creating a digitally enabled supply chain, which actually transforms the entire end-to-end planning. So if you look at the current traditional way of planning, it is based on demand forecasting. So if it is a B2C organization, we look at a statistical forecasting, which is more deterministic in the model, which typically your ERP will try to fit the best fit into what is the demand. But the demand doesn't remain the same when it comes to actual production. It changes 30-40%. And that's the place where the digitally enabled, AI-enabled, the demand sensing has to take over, because your traditional deterministic forecasting will not be able to cater to the fluctuation. That's why we lead to huge inventory pileups. And specifically in the spare parts market, where you see granularity of the demand needs to be understood. If a dealer or somewhere you see a demand spike, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a market is booming. It may be the dealers are stocking it up, okay, in anticipation of a slump or in anticipation of a crisis. So that's where the demand sensing comes into picture. That's today's topic actually. And what we are doing is that we are actually dividing the supply chain into three parts and digitizing it. One is the supply chain part of it, where our fundamental backbone remains the integrated business planning, IBP. We, in Cummins, globally, we implemented IBP 7 years back, and it's a global platform that we run the classical way of IBP based on Oliver Wright model, and we are in the process of digitizing the IBP as a platform. That is for the supply chain side. We also have a lot of logistical digitization happening that really helps us reduce our logistics costs. And we have implemented, we have seen almost 70% utilization of vehicles improvement. So what the vehicle typically used to be, when in our outbound, used to be typically utilized to the extent of 60-65%. We have moved it to 90+%. Using this AI-enabled app, which actually allocates the vehicle on the load or from a load-to-load basis. And on the foundation of planning remains IBP, and in IBP we run again both long-term plan and short-term planning. Short-term planning is typically based on demand sensing, and a long-term we run a process called rough cut capacity planning. Every month we actually look at the capacity for us for next 3 years, and we keep moving it every month. Whether you need to add capacity, whether you need to delete capacity, add a supplier, remove a supplier, and that cycle goes on. And that's where it protects us with regards to the creating less release in the system. And then we have manufacturing digitization, which we have started the journey. We are trying to connect all our machines to cloud. So we use a platform called Ignition, where the cloud will fetch the data, and it's already happening from the bottom of the machine. Let's say we have a huge robo, where the motor at the bottom of the robo, you cannot access. It takes almost 1 day to access that motor. How do you run it 24/7? How do you ensure that it is not overheating, it is not going to overcycle? So they are the places where we are, through iOS, we are connecting those machines to the cloud, and we are actually able to sense. So sitting in Pune, today we can sense what is happening in Jamshedpur or Fulton or Indore. How are the machines running, and then put interventions accordingly. So that's on the supply chain side, manufacturing side, and same we are also doing on the quality side. Quality also, we know for sure today, in today's economics, you cannot have 100% permanent manpower, okay? That's because of the vagrancies of the demand pattern. Every industry, if anybody claims they are running 100%, it will be difficult to believe. So we typically operate at 70-30 or 60-40 ratio. But how do you manage the influx of temporary manpower happening every year? So what we have done is that we have mapped all critical machines to capable or certified manpower, and only the temporary manpower which comes are allocated machines which are skill agnostic. And there we are using again digitization, where the machine actually can capture who is supposed to operate that machine and who is not supposed to operate that machine. So the entire chain. So from the product side, if you look at the product, it's a complete disruption. On the supply side, also there is a disruption. However, fortunate is that today we have actually tools available to address either side, both from the product side and on the supply side. Less on the product side, more on the supply side. Product is still evolving. I guess we still do not have great solutions for fuel cell and others. But on the demand side and the supply side, our supply chain analytics tools are pretty advanced today. And I would recommend strongly that we use all these tools which are available in the Twitter platform, very mature tools which uses AI, which uses ML, okay, and does help us see the future much ahead of and much better with more accuracy. That would be my piece.
Thank you, Shubhankarji. In fact, you rightly said how things will change, and they're already changing. And even the EV, we did not believe ICE will move on to EV. If you ask us 10 years back, many of us did not really believe it will come. Today, it's there to stay. And he mentioned the hydrogen and the FCV, the fuel cell systems which may come. Today, I'll say it's a debate zone. And maybe we'll come back to this zone later, but let's first stay with the EV side of it. So electric vehicles are now here to stay, right? That's a given fact. I don't see they'll go away. Only the battery life will go on improving, so the anxieties will disappear. The distance anxieties which were there 5 years back or 3 years back. So now they have 500-600 kilometers availability. And it'll probably go on, and that may add to the trucking may start using it also for long distance if it ever gets to say 1,000 kilometer odd ranges, which may happen. But I know my friend Mr. Borkar is quite active in this electric mobility area. So rather than me talking, I'd like to ask him how he sees the EV supply chain systems ahead.
Sure. Thank you. So once again, good afternoon. So sometimes in such forum, my position becomes very odd, tricky, because I'm sitting in midst of my customers and my supplier partners. So, so now you know whom to blame. Okay, so that's a part. So again, what we heard was really challenging. So good that Tata Motors, we work very closely. We have partners like Safe Express, DP World, so we work very closely with them. So, so as we heard the traction, what is happening in the mobility world, and that's where we created a vertical within our organization to lead a mobility, and that covers the entire value chain, includes supply chain, the logistics piece. So today, the traction you can definitely see. As Shubhankar said, pack car, passenger cars will be there. So we'll be moving to EVs very quickly. Yesterday, we heard Tata Motors launched, and again, the refreshed Nexon, and they are the clear leaders. Same is happening in Europe, same is happening in China, quite high. So as a supply chain, there are certain new dynamics have started coming into supply chain. We were evolved working with our existing customers very closely, partners, manage the demand, manage the supply. But this EV has given an opportunity for many newcomers, new startups, and their thought process on supply chain is entirely different. Entirely different. Today, they are working like entrepreneurs, they need something now. Okay, and they value something very differently. They are very interested to work as a collaborative supply chain where they want entire assembly solutions. So if I look at as Airman as being a partner to them, I need to bring them such a value and manage my supply chain in such a way that I literally reduce their pain of managing the entire scenarios. Nobody will buy a one part, single component, something. They want solutions. They want assembly solutions. And that's where the supply chain dynamics are going to change. Probably from the likes of, I can say Mr. Anil is here, Safe Express, how they can modify their trucks or their packaging or their way of doing business for this EV industry will matter the most. And that's where the customers are really coping up. They want assembly solutions, they want immediate, they want now, and they will continue. They don't want to spend more time on supply chains, they don't want to manage that. They will focus on technology. So what is today happening is in this demand scenario, they are focused on technology, they don't want to manage supply chain. And that's where probably it's an opportunity for all of us within the room. And the secret sauce, probably you asked me how Airman is growing. Probably one way I can say it's supply chain. So we are managing our supply chain between our suppliers and our customers quite well. And thanks to all of you here. And the key ingredient is collaboration. So I see collaborative approach among our supply chains, how we are transparent. So really, I will be happy, like when Tata Motors is doing a lot of steps to manage their demand, how a supplier like us can be a part of that system. And we manage our supply and how we give right information to probably DP World, to Safe Express in the right time. So that collaboration, I really imagine how we can really take this up and manage the new scenarios, the new demand. A lot of disruptions are happening and we need to prepare. So supply chain will be more robust. Like we say, business to B2C or B2B, that B2B start moving like B2C. I need to want. I want now. I want to make my vehicle. I want to assemble my electric two-wheeler. I want it now. So we have to work out as a supply chain community and how we are prepared for this upcoming change on the EV side or hydrogen side. So that's what I would like to add on that. So let's be prepared and let's be collaborative.
Thank you, Amit. You rightly said assembly solutions. That is what is the need of the hour. So you have to package it right. It's no more selling one item at a time. It's a package. Even if you look at these Ubers and Olas, they're giving you a package. So people are getting out of purchasing cars into solutions. So that is surely the future. But Anil, you want to add something?
No, I like one very important, so in his response, I think Amit mentioned something very phenomenal, if everybody understands the weight of what he just mentioned. And that is the B2B supply chains will start behaving like B2C. They possibly already are. What it basically fundamentally means is that the responsiveness, the agility of being able to not only physically move, but respond to whatever the demand is, must, is either already increasing or it must increase manyfold further. The times are such that the products are now commoditized sufficiently enough that it's just this supply chain itself is now making that difference of what product you can get, at the same time. So two products could be of similar quality or a higher quality or whatever quality they may be, but what product you're going to get faster in the times of these 10 minutes deliveries or the 20 minutes deliveries or half an hour deliveries. In the current times, if you want an Apple phone or any other phone, whatever phone, from Amazon and from a Flipkart or from whoever you're buying it from, the delivery times is also now adding to that element because the phone is still the same. Effectively, deliveries or the supply chains are now becoming, crucial to add value to, the product delivery itself. So I think that agility part resonates very strongly.
Well said. Agility is the key word, and Rohit wants to add on to that.
Yeah, one small point which Anil mentioned was, this point on collaboration, right? Going forward in future, I think given the, flux that we see in demand side, supply side, etc., it's almost imperative that ecosystems, right, come together collaboratively. Suppliers, logistics guys, OEs, as well as customers, by the way, all of them actually start moving into a collaborative kind of a space. And by the way, technology is not going to be an impediment there, right? It's something that you can actually use to move quicker in this direction of collaboration. And that's the way it's going to pan out. Whichever ecosystem starts moving, faster in that space, they will start gaining more and more traction. Which means, across all the stakeholders, now with technology out of the way, the softer aspects of being able to trust, data exchange, being more and more open, being more and more mutually respectful, all those things start becoming more and more important. Technology becomes a tick mark, actually.
Quite true. So technology is a tick mark, but you also need people to manage the technology. And it's the right time to move to the lady who has not yet spoken, Ruchika ji. So let's hear from her how she manages change management using the people and the workforce.
Gutu for this question. Thank you everyone for having me here and for that encouragement clap. Really means a lot to me. So, when we talk of technology, one thing which we have to remember that these are the drivers. Technology is the mean. Adopting to technology is never the goal. So how the best technology fits into what I want to achieve. For example, let's say forecasting. What is that I'm currently doing and what is the gap there which technology will help me bridge? So having that identification at organization level is very important. That's one thing. Second thing is having a very clear analysis of the maturity level of the organization, the readiness. What do I mean by that is, do we have the right input, right? When we have these advanced tools in terms of data lake, in terms of inputs, do we have that readiness? By readiness, I also mean that are they aware? Do they have the comfort level? Because talking of the conventional manufacturing organization, we are used to work in a certain way. Our people may not be very comfortable because, a lot of the work, however we say that, we have become digital and all, trust me, a big amount of work is still done on Excel in the manufacturing industry. Let's be very honest about it. So are the people comfortable with the idea of, embedding these tools into our day-to-day practices? And these changes are usually top-driven. It can't be bottoms up. It has to be top-driven. Leaders have to be very actively involved in driving these changes. The third thing is, we are talking about supply chain, very well-connected supply chain, right from the market of origin to the point of destination where we have visibility across all the stages. Now, when I have this connected supply chain, do my partners, dealers, suppliers, do they also have the same readiness as I have? That is also important. That is one thing. So these are few things. The third thing which comes to my mind is, when I talk of, and I and Rohit were discussing this backstage, that when we pair these platforms with cloud, the kind of cyber risk we are exposed to, the data security, are we ready to deal with that, right? Are we ready for it? So these are the things which comes to my mind when I talk of change management. And currently, when I talk of our workplace, we have started a lot of awareness around these programs, because the idea was, and irrespective of the function you are from, irrespective of the designation you are from, the kind of training and awareness program we have started, because the first stage is knowing. Once you know that you know what you are entering into. And the last thing is the use case. Like, we don't need a complex solution for a simple problem. We have to be very clear that what is the use case? I mean, maybe, currently what I'm doing is well enough. So, so the use case, and people should be very, very, very much convinced with the idea of adopting these, that, okay, what I'm doing currently is not sufficient, and that is the reason I'm moving on to these tools, not just for the heck of it. So these are the few things which comes across my mind, and at COIL it is very, very leaders driven. Leaders are actively participating in these training program and driving these change. So that is how, and you have to be the role models, and you have to be the change you want to be. So it starts from us. So that is all I would like to add.
Thank you. That were very comforting words. And you mentioned cyber attacks, cyber security, which is a new risk which we all have to gear up to, because that could wipe out an organization in seconds if you are not aware and cautious. And I know Om, my friend, is doing a lot in that area, as well as digitization for supply chain. So it'll be great to hear from Om how they are deploying digitization into the SC.
Thanks, Mr. Gutu, for this very relevant questions. Technology is evolving very fast globally. We have seen the global disruption by this technology. One disruption on the product side, like we talk about the EV, hydrogen. So yes, technology is changing very fast and products are changing very fast. But at the same time, this technology is bringing the change in the supply chain also. So digitalization is changing a lot in the supply chain. A lot of startups already started in India as well as globally. India is surely leading in this, and India is, becoming or shown the power of the digitalization during this last 1 year of the G20 meetings, where the dignitaries are coming over India, and we are showing that how India is growing on the digitalization side. So this is the one part, that India is surely growing. Many startups are working over there, but at the same time, what is expected in the supply chain? Like Anil mentioned that, like B2B supply chain is also expecting similar like the B2C. And what was the difference? Like differentiator is the digitalization or the visibility of the consignments. The visibility of the consignments is very high from the day one when the e-commerce are started in India. You can easily track your consignment. The similar expectations has been generated into the B2B supply chain when we talk about the automotive supply chains. My OEMs, we are the suppliers, so OEMs are expecting that consignment visibility should be there. So digitalization is playing a big role in this complete supply chain technology actually. The first example, let me give you how the visibility of the consignment are helping in terms of forecasting, in terms of controlling the cost, in terms of sustainability also. So one example, we are buying a lot of material globally, and Europe to India lane is, very, very prominent for us. Earlier, there was a lot of issues when visibility was not there. I was not knowing that my ETA is getting changed, and what change I have to do in my demand planning. Okay, what orders we need to change. But now, there are technology available. Digitalization is helping us in a manner that now the origin source where my material is getting dispatched is connected through the third party, one of the software, where that software is pulling all the information from our SAP system, and this software is connected through the API with our freight forwarder also. So whatever information is getting updated into the freight forwarder portal, it is pulling by that software and it is transferring into our SAP system. And we can, real-time information we can see in our SAP. If any kind of a ETA change, it is very much visible. I can change our orders, and we can control our inventory. This tool is really going to help us in terms of controlling the inventory. And when you are optimizing the inventory in the system, it is not only directly benefit to the organization, but at the same time on the sustainability side. You reduce the inventory, definitely we are controlling the parameters of the CO2 emission because unnecessary push of the material is not there. At the same time, this is avoiding my air freights, which is, last minute I come to know there is a change and I have to pull material by the air, then, and air CO2 emission, as compared to the sea shipment. So definitely sustainability is also going to be benefited through this digitalization process. If I talk another example, even government is pushing a lot, and ULIP, everyone is aware, like, okay, government has come with this ULIP activity where 7 ministries are connected with the one portal, and I can get the data of my consignments through the ULIP. So there is a push from the government side on the digitalization, and we as a customer, many LSPs are sitting over here, you all are getting the benefit of this ULIP, where the real-time information. One example of the ULIP benefit is, like, when vessel is coming to the port, from that time, and container is moving to the CFS, there was no visibility that exactly where is the container, where is the material. If there is extra time, nobody is knowing that, okay, what's happening. But ULIP is going to give us the benefit where exactly the container it is, and it is giving us the benefit. So there is a push of the government on the digitalization side, and new startups are really helping us. Other tools are available. Digital twin, everybody had heard it. Okay, digital twin is helping us to, modelize my supply chain, and if any kind of, optimization I need it, before implementation, we can make the changes and we can get the directly first time right. We generally talk in the automotive technology side that first time right product. So first time right product, we can get it. In the supply chain also, first time right, we can get it. Another example, let me add, because warehousing side, Schaeffler is operating 4 or 5 warehouses in India at the quite bigger scale. And in the warehouses, there are a lot of things which is troubling us basically. Sometime wrong product is getting packed, or wrong product has been put into the different vehicle and it is a wrong delivery is happening. So how to control it? So on the digitalization side, we have tools now available that we can, validate the pick, we can validate the load also. So as soon as there is a handheld device, similar like mobiles, you just scan it, scan the pick list, scan the product, both are matching, it says go or pack it and dispatch it. So always it will ensure that you are packing the right product. The similar tool is using for the loading also. Scan the gate pass, scan the product, both are matching, tool says fine, load this particular box in this vehicle. There is no errors, okay, so product will always dispatch correctly. The similar tool in the inventory verification, when we have supplies through our warehouses, it is very important that inventory should be correct. So daily basis, like, okay, perpetual inventory count as well as monthly or yearly wall-to-wall count when we are doing it, then it is very important that there should be some kind of a tool which is avoiding all kind of manual processes. Ruchika just mentioned that still people are using the Excel sheets. Now time is gone for the Excel sheet. Who is using? If somebody is using, please eliminate it. Now, tools are available in the market which you can easily implement it. Our target is we are eliminating the paper from our warehouses. There's no need of paper in the warehouses. Why to do that when tools are available? So similar inventory verification. I know till last year, like one person was taking the print of the system inventory and checking on the physically and putting up remarks in front of that. Okay, if there is any deviation, no need of it. Just transfer the information of the system in the handheld device, tuck, 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 scan it. System will give me the deviation report, and if there is a deviation report, I have to upload in my SAP system. No need of it. Everything is working fantastic. So digitalization is coming so fast in this field, and we have to use it. Now, a lot of, LSP partners are sitting over here. My say to everyone is, like, if you are going slow in this side, please take the fastest speed. It is an investment. And we as a customer, we always prefer that who is strong in the digitalization. This is one of the criteria of selecting our service provider. So digitalization is the future where everyone has to fast and pick the speed. And this is the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Om. So rightly said, even though I know Ruchikaji confirms, and we also use Excel, but the future is not Excel. That is for sure. So we have to get used to the apps and the systems which are coming in. Yes, Shubhankar.
No, I guess what Ruchika said is the reality, and what Om said is also reality. The digitization on the supply chain and the warehousing side has progressed much faster. Okay, we have WMS, we have RFIDs, we have handle trackers, we have location identifiers, we have dynamic locations. Everything is, they are all digitized and it is today available. But when you come to the hardcore manufacturing, the machines were purchased 30 years back. Okay, and those machines are not IP connected to the cloud. And that's a hard reality in most of the manufacturing until unless it has been set up in last 5 years, 6 years. Even machines which were procured, which I set up our factories in Fulton, which are only 10 years old, even those machines, the IPs are still not capable of connecting to cloud today. So it is very easy to say that we are going industry 4. It is not that easy because it requires hardware investment. It requires people to be capable of connecting those machines through I/O to a cloud platform. And the last part, which I have not yet said, is extracting the data back from cloud is equally difficult. Okay, you have flood of data going into the cloud. Who is capable of today running analytics to look at that data? Okay, there are hardly very few engineers who are today AI and ML and enabled software engineers or data scientists available inside the manufacturing factories who can extract that data and convert that into a meaningful chart which says this is your overall equipment effectiveness. That's a journey which is now happening. It is going to happen. It will take another 3 to 5 years minimum. So what Ruchika says is very much a reality. On the shop floor, when you hit, it is still Excel files. It is still shift supervisors who are noting down on registers. The journey has started in most of the manufacturing industries where we are starting to connect our existing equipments into cloud. But the older equipments have a significant capital investment required. The next generation equipment, which are mostly NC and CNCs, there can be literally relative ease of connectivity, but still there is an investment required. But the bigger challenge is not CapEx, the bigger challenge is the talent. Who will connect those machines into the cloud and extract the data back from cloud? So that is where bigger challenge is, and we are also going through, I guess, like Coel, Cummins, Automotive, we are all going through the same journey, trying to connect the shop floor to a digitally enabled connected factory. This journey is, I would say, just started, and there are very few industries who are actually ahead of the game, because I've seen most of the industries, they are actually trying to connect the equipments today. Process industry is a little ahead because process industries already came with that enablement, because you cannot get inside the process equipment, okay, and you have to monitor from outside. But when you look at the hardcore manufacturing, most of our auto component manufacturing, there, I guess the journey has just started. It will take a little while we reach a maturity.
No, I appreciate, and while your skepticism on this is valid, but I'll say it's a question of when. It's not a question of whether it will happen. It will happen, the Excels will go away, but yes, the question is when. So direction is that it may take longer than we think. And as I think Om mentioned, the government is also chipping in very good way in this whole journey of digitization. We see how we can pay the Kelawala on the street, 10 rupees right there through the UPI system. He shared about the ULIP system. The government is really behind this as well, the change and transformation on digitization. And that's good for us, we're lucky actually. Many governments out there in the other regions are still not taken up this job. And you saw in the G20 recently how the Prime Minister announced that IMEC corridor, which is it's a great thing great initiative. It actually takes on China's BRI here, the Belt Road Initiative. It actually cuts it down. So tomorrow we'll have, it may take time, a corridor with shipping and rail and right up till the Europe from, say, Bombay area somewhere, I guess, through Middle East. So this IMEC corridor, it's a great thing, and sustainability is a buzzword there. If you see, it uses the ocean. And that's where I guess we could ask my friend Jayant, who's quite knowledgeable on the sustainability side of it. What do you have to share on this thought?
Thanks for saying that. So sustainability is something which we always love to talk. And that is a topic which almost everyone has some idea about. But see, what is more important is while we have a lot of theory on sustainability, and most of the companies, if you go through the annual report of all these companies, they have a lot of targets taken, a lot of goals taken. And there is pages after pages on the efforts being taken by these companies. So practically, if you see on the logistic front, how you actually implement a sustainable solution will depend on whether you have done your calculations of the existing logistic properly or not. So if you know that you have so many trucks coming out of your factory every day, and the CO2 emission for this truck is so much, that is when, if you are able to measure that, then you are able to implement something to reduce that. If you are not able to measure it, if you don't have that figure published to everyone in the company, then there is hardly anyone who will be appreciative of this affair. So most of the sustainability initiatives lie at the top level in the companies, unless until it gets down to the bottom level, wherein every person who is actually involved in the supply chain activities knows what he's to do and what he's going to gain out of that. A simple example, if I have to take a truck from, say, south of India to north of India, 2,500 kilometers, you know that the truck emission is the highest. So it is nearly 10 times more than the sea emission. If I do a simple calculation, 2,500 kilometers, a normal truck, which is a 32 feet multi-axle, can carry approximately 14 tons. And I know that it's around 112 grams per ton kilometer of the CO2 emission. If I do that calculation, it comes to around 4 tons for that single trip from south of India to north of India of 2,500 kilometers. Now, this is an amazing fact. And there is not single truck. I have seen companies dispatching 200 to 500 trucks every day. Can you imagine how many tons of CO2 it is emitting? Now, the cost of that is not understood unless and until you get into the national level. The government of India wants to become carbon net zero by 2070, Sudhir. If I have to achieve the target, then I have to find out ways and means of replacing the CO2. The cost of capturing the CO2, as of now from the atmosphere, approximately is $100 per ton. So if one single truck in a day is emitting 4 tons, you have already spent 35 to 45,000 rupees into that. If you are paying to the vendor around 90,000 rupees, nearly 30-40% of that is going to cost the government of India to remove the CO2 from the atmosphere. And this has to be done by 2070. No wonder most of the government's policy are actually oriented towards that. And it is going to hit us badly. Most of the companies have to realize this. And that is where the concept of collaboration with the logistic service provider comes in. So most of the panelists have spoken about that. So if a company, an auto OEM, wants to do this, it is high time that they get the logistic service provider onboarded into all of these long-term initiatives wherein we can actually provide some solutions. So when we did these calculations in DP World, we realized that these are the calculations which are already there. And from internet, you can actually find out what is the total emission. We want to do the practical trial. So we did one practical trial for one of the auto OEMs. We took the container from south of India, and we tried to see whether we can use the alternate mode of transportation and see how much will be the emission. So we took the container from the factory, brought it to the Cochin port. From Cochin port, we took it to Mundra by sea. And in Mundra, we put it on rail all the way to NCR, and then the last mile was only the truck. And then we put it in our calculator, and we found out what is it that we are saving. Not surprising, the saving in the carbon emission reduction was to the tune of 53 to 60% in one single mode. But that is a saving which will not matter to the companies. But if you put another tangible figure, that it has a capacity to remove nearly 500 trucks from the system into one single, because a 40-foot container would be able to load more material than a truck. That is where we see the tangible benefits. And when you do the costing calculation, now everyone knows that per ton cost for a road transportation is the highest. It is nearly 3.2 rupees per ton per kilometer. And for rail, it is the lowest. It is 1.3 rupees per ton per kilometer. So if you map this and also know that the road also is the biggest emitter of CO2 and it is costliest also, automatically you come to know the solution. Multimodal is the solution. So one of the things which we want to do, and certainly like to engage with a lot of OEMs, is try and find out, depending on their nature of supply chain, what is the best possible multimodal solution. Be it the coastal, be it the waterways, be it the railways, or the last mile transportation, whatever it is, that is the most important thing which we have to engage with.
Thank you, insightful.
Yeah, I would.
I'll come to you soon.
Okay.
Just hold your question.
I just want to add what Jayant said actually. So, every organization have some kind of now sustainability targets. Everybody has set the target, like some Indian government has said like by 2070, internally, like we as a Schaeffler says globally by 2040, we want to be the net zero. But at the same time, as a supply chain people, okay, calculations, Jayant mentioned that, okay, in DP World, they have the calculations. Globally, when we say about the international trade, some calculations already started. So global freight forwarders are providing this information. But one lag, I'm finding it like domestically, how many of our LSPs have started calculating and providing the figures? That is one of the area where, we have to, okay. So thanks, Anil. So, but at the same time, we as a, customer, we are also looking on that data. And one initiative which we have taken, so I thought let me share with all of you. In our supply chain dashboard, we have put the, now the calculation of the CO2 emission. Then every day the report which is coming to us are showing that, okay, how much CO2 emission we are doing or we did yesterday, and as a complete month level, how much it is. So until unless we have the as-is data, we cannot compare with the to-be data, that where we want to reach it actually. So as-is data is very important, and I found that at internally in India, we are still not having the as-is data of our CO2 emission, and we have to focus it. So this is one of the initiatives we have taken that, okay, let's put it on the dashboard. So first thing which I come to know other than like deliveries, CO2 emission also. So that is one of the initiative from our side.
Thank you, Om. So it's very insightful, the astronomical big figures we heard on the trucking's emissions, which need to come down. But the importance which Om also mentioned is transparency. The data has to be first visible to us. We don't even share, we don't even know that data today. And one mechanism to reduce the emissions is, I think Shubhankarji mentioned, of course we are going to ICE to EVs happening, but maybe in future it's time for green hydrogen, though there's still, it's still up for debates. So some guys will say it is, some will say may not happen. And we know how Toyota has been trying to get this, I think Mirai model. They launched almost 8-10 years back, and still not visible, let's say, if I can say so. But I think challenges are not the FCV part of the handling of the green hydrogen, but more the supply and management of the gases. That's a big issue, the logistics, the supply chain for green hydrogen. And that's where I guess Anil Salvit can better answer than me, how you look at the future on that aspect.
So before I come to this, if I want to add one small point of what Jayant mentioned, the mileage that he was, the count that he was telling about was not a per day, but a per trip calculation. So just to kind of somber the mood, because that's the dark side of things, so you must know it's a per trip. So 2,500 kilometers means that virtually it takes about, give or take about 3 days to burn that much, or 1/3 of what he was trying to give you. But anyhow, the substance is still the same. It's the density of that point is still there. The intensities of that point is also still there. Having said that, I think what Mr. Om mentioned is very pertinent. One must appreciate where your current emissions are. That is your as-is scenario, and that will kind of give you the first start. The moment you start measuring it, you will be tomorrow able to manage some of it, whichever ways you deem to choose. My larger point on that same subject is something that you added earlier on the government initiatives. There's one line of thought that I believe might make some sense to this rationale of where we are headed. I believe there are a lot of times the business of managing business is all private, but sometimes governments have to provide interventions, and those interventions, those triggers, create opportunities, especially if we were talking about supply chain, these opportunities are a result of some triggers. To come to what, one of those triggers that comes to my mind, interventions, so to speak, was in the GST era that you were talking about earlier. So in the pre-GST era, organizations were creating multiple warehouses in multiple states because of saving CST became a norm. So that supply chain inefficiency, was ingrained in the system. As soon as GST came in, for whatever good reasons, it benefited a lot of other elements also. But one supply chain advantage that came through was that now you do not need to have 26 warehouses for 26 states, and even for a small radius of 300 kilometers, multiple warehouses were being created. So those inefficiencies are a trigger, are a benefit to that trigger that happened. So in the current times, I believe there is this new intervention that has come in, and that's what I think Jayant was mentioning, the pledge. India's pledge towards carbon neutrality, not the net zero, the 2070, but even if you consider the neutrality, the first pledge that India has taken is the neutrality pledge, which is 2047, where we've got to reduce carbon emission, we've got to create carbon sink, we've got to also move towards alternative fuel. But if you look at that pledge and then see the trigger effect of that, the follow-through events and all that talk of EVs, alternative fuels, improvements of technology, and those moves are a very fundamental result of that. Now, the discussions have started, some actions have started on the ground, and there in due course of time, there will be sufficient action towards moving towards EV. And I'm kind of, if you consider the entire well-to-wheels emissions, I'm slightly more positive towards hydrogen ICE, as well as then sufficiently more importantly hydrogen fuel cell. But the idea being that effectively over the next 20 odd years, we will move in this direction consciously because of this trigger that the government has ended up creating. And fortunately, very rarely you have, and for a supply chain fellow sitting on this panel, I think we'll appreciate this more and a lot who are in this audience, is very rarely do we have this opportune cosmic alliance of all ducks in a row. So somehow this times are such that we are getting the advantage of many of these ducks in a row, so to speak, for the matter that our highways are becoming super smart. You mentioned about Nitin Gadkari's other 10%, speech, but the other thing that he's actually on the ground working for is the electric highway, which is something which is moving very much in the right direction. There's so many things that are happening which are part of that trigger. The taxation and the ULIP logic, the national logistics policy, Gati Shakti portal. All of these are those triggers which are nudging us into that right direction. And I believe, on a positive note, that there's no better time in to be in supply chain than this current moment, so that we can make these or take these initiatives and make some change where supply chain, which is now becoming not only relevant but becomes the change maker in how organizations' competitiveness function. I'll hold there.
Sudhir, I just want to add a quick one, consider the time. Since we talk about carbon neutrality and other things, so today probably when we as Airman, we looked more internally, being a tier 2, tier 3 in the value chain. So what we focused was how we work on the scope 1 and scope 3 level when we talk of the carbon neutrality. Friends, I will tell you, Anna, going ahead, the supply chain is going to focus more on the recyclability also. So what we are adding value is when we are doing some assembly solution to our customer, we are focusing on providing a solution for the disassembly. The reason for giving a right solution for disassembly, we don't want our customers to break the parts. Rather, they should be able to disassemble in the right way, rightly reuse and recycle the key ingredients of materials coming from Mother Earth, and that's where probably we add that value. So the upcoming supply chain will be on the recyclability, reusability, so that's the key, and that's where ARM has taken a step on the upstream supply chain, where we work with our partners on designing the right solution, using the right kind of materials, which are green and which should add value and honestly score points on the carbon neutrality. So that's where probably we are doing a lot of actions on this side.
Thank you.
Yeah. Circularity is very key.
But you rightly said, Anil, the time to be in supply chain is now, and we are in the right time. So we should reap that benefits there. And I think I've been allowed by Bhanu ma'am another 5-10 minutes. So I'll come to the audience, but before that, I thought I'll ask one question to Shubhankarji as well. And of course, you can continue on the green hydrogen, but my question was more on the great move which like China is slowly slowing down, right? India hopefully is coming up. And that should help India in the China plus one strategy, because when I talk to my German counterparts or Americans, they all are very excited on India. And they are saying China will slow down and you will go up. So how do you see the supply chain readiness for this mega move? And of course, you can touch base on green hydrogen, which you wanted to.
I'll just touch a little bit on the green hydrogen and then move to the China plus one. So I guess the government is doing a lot towards promoting green hydrogen. And I hope you all know what is gray, what is blue, what is green. I'll not repeat that. So there is a PLI scheme which is currently running, and we complete the application by 5th of October. Ideally, it was supposed to have been done in 5th of September. And that is an application for production of green hydrogen. And the green hydrogen typically we produce through electrolyzers. So Cummins is also one of the bidders in that. And we have many more large players. So what's this going to create? What the government is trying to create, it is a completely green hydrogen ecosystem. Hydrogen has been there for almost past 80 years. All the steel plants do use hydrogen in their manufacturing, but that's a gray hydrogen, which means you produce hydrogen using conventional electricity. But when you talk of green hydrogen, you produce hydrogen through green or renewable energy, which is mostly solar or wind or something of that kind. And then these technologies are much way advanced. So the most advanced platform is the PEM platform, the proton electron membrane platform, where we're using in electrolyzers to convert into green hydrogen. So that's what I'm saying is the hydrogen economy is going to come. The government is looking at the hydrogen economy as an alternate to fossil fuel. It may take, so by 2030, the pledge is that we'll do almost 30 million tons of green hydrogen. That's the pledge we are looking at. And all the bigger players like Adani's and Ambani's, they're all investing significantly towards creating the green hydrogen ecosystem. Is it that easy? It's not that easy, because hydrogen is the most inflammable gas, okay? The portability of hydrogen is most difficult. Typically, if you want to use hydrogen in an automobile vehicle, you need to store it at 750 bars. And you can imagine what is that pressure all about. So that's really, and it is highly inflammable. So a leakage in a CNG vehicle doesn't matter much, but a leakage in a hydrogen vehicle, you will not even come to know before the vehicle goes on flame. So that's the riskier part of it. But I guess the technology is also evolving, where we are looking at carbon fiber tanks and all. So that is evolving field, and it is going to come very strong, very fast. That was on the hydrogen side. Going back to, so this question on China plus one is very rightly asked, and that is India is at a very opportune time to encash on this journey. So what is happening is that globally we see there are a lot of flux in the China policies. If you look at the zero COVID policy, then there are duty drawbacks which they all of a sudden withdrew. Okay, so there are a lot of uncertainties, and also the data security. Most of the tech companies are today afraid of operating out of China, because the tech data, they are saying that it will have to remain within China. You cannot export that tech data. Okay, so that brings a lot of insecurity in all the global OEMs and all the global tech companies. That should we be only dependent on China? By the way, let me clarify. China plus one doesn't mean that the organization is moving out of China. What they are doing is that creating another base out of China. And the countries who are getting benefited or should get benefited are definitely India is one of them. but we have Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Mexico who are also encashing a lot on this. So to me, it's a right time where we should encash on this policy. Still, there is a lot of dependence on China, but the organizations globally are finding a way to have an alternate source other than China. And there are the favorable reasons also, because if you look at the labor cost, today China is almost, 20 years back, China and India were almost same with regards to labor cost. Today, it is almost 3 times. Okay, availability of skilled labor is abundant in India as in China. We have a definitely benefit of language transparency out here. Most of us understand English and speak English when we talk to we are all communicating in English. Starts communicating with the global multinationals. That puts us in an advantage. And I guess India is seen more transparent compared to China. Are we there? We are not there. If you look at the overall China ecosystem, it's almost still at 7 to 8 times of that of us, be it steel production, be it any other scale. If you look at EV and all, they're all in the scale of almost 10 times that of ours. So, but it is the right time. We should encash, we should adapt to this, and we are seeing that happening, and you can see most of the tech companies have started setting up factories in India. We see Apple sourcing components from India, and that's happening in most of the other areas. So it's an opportune time, and it's the best time for supply chain to be there to adapt all the technologies and bring that technology back into India. It is happening.
Thank you, Shivankarji. So rightly said, and it's not that China will give up and India will take everything. We have to grab what we can, because there's competition around, as you said, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Mexico. So let's do our bit, and supply chain will be one kind of a catalyst to make it happen. If you have good supply chain, things will actually move. If you have bad infrastructure, bad supply chain systems, no one will look at India, they'll rather go to Vietnam or elsewhere. So let's gear up for this change, but just last few minutes before the 200 hungry bears head towards the lunch. And since I missed the audience, we'll take 1 or 2 audience questions now. There's one gentleman here. He's eagerly waiting. You can also specifically ask, or you can throw a general question and we'll toss a coin here.
Yeah, that time I could not able to resist, because the time was exactly that. And the question was basically what two gentlemen, Anil as well as Jan, because Anil on one point of on one side was saying now B2B is moving towards B2C in terms of delivery times, the customer front. And on the other side, Jan was saying the carbon emission is going up, because if that B2B is going to B2C, then there are many deliveries will happen, and then it will not be a consolidation. So how can we relate these 2 points?
So can we have a fist fight, or you want a mic fight? Please go ahead, both of you.
Let me take the first hit on this. So when I think I only carried forward that point which I liked, what Mr. Amit mentioned, but let me tell you this, why I liked it was the spirit behind it. Because this is someone, so I represent Safe Express. Safe Express is one of India's largest B2B, door-to-door express distribution company. So I kind of day in, day out deal with organizations who are almost always are at fire of saying, I want this product at that place yesterday. Not tomorrow, not day after, but yesterday, not even today. So I was only kind of responding that this is the behavior of what is happening. Now let me tell you why that is happening. It's not something that I'm worried about that. Neither am I, kind of crying loud about this as to why this is happening, because I understand why this is happening, and we are prepared to respond to it, not only as an organization, but as a trade of logistics also. And I'll tell you where this comes from. To any logistician sitting here in the audience and on the panel, anything that is on the road is logistics cost. It actually adds into your inventory, that inventory cost adds into your logistics cost of the product that is carried. So any higher number of days is basically a bigger response time. That lag time basically adds to the cost that you are earning. So more responsive supply chain is that which basically is now replenishing the goods or supplying goods in just in time kind of an environment. So various other acronyms can be coined around those, but fundamentally a quicker or a more responsive supply chain in the B2B is many times more beneficial than something if it was to done on a B2C. I'll give you an example there. So if you want an Apple iPhone ordered on a Flipkart, your life is not going to change if it was delivered today, tonight or tomorrow morning, right? Ultimately, you're going to consume that product. It's not going to change because your product is going to be with you for for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. On the same example for the distribution side, if this was a raw material, from Raymond going into, let's say, a production, or Cummins engine going into a Tata product, if that was being delivered in those 4 hours from plant to plant, from plant to distributor, and so on and so forth, that basically the faster supply chain reduces supply chain cost because the inventory cost on road goes down. Clearly, all this kind of correlates back to the point that Jayant was mentioning, as to all this translates into carbon emissions. Everything that we do, your 10-minute delivery that everybody is vying for is coming at a cost of some carbon emission on the road. So the carbon emission is the fact of the matter. So any action that you are taking is a fact of that matter. And then there is this this underlying movement that is happening, and I told you the trigger of that is not only the pledge, but otherwise also it's happening globally, which Mr. Shubhankar also took on just a little while back, is this move towards how this carbon emissions can come down. So this carbon emissions from an ICE engine vehicle, it's a matter of fact, which Omji mentioned, that we must have a transparent way of as is, because if you know as is, then it will actually start somehow relating to how you can reduce it tomorrow. So there is this understanding that one must have, that all this B2B action or the B2C action is actually translating into some carbon emission or the other, whatever it may be. And then there is this action on, reducing it. How it is being done, I'll let Jayant handle the second part of this, which is towards carbon.
Just to add to that, yeah, actually, I'm coming from a B2B company in which I'm a customer for Safe Express, and there we are also experiencing the same thing, that my end customers are actually asking the delivery yesterday. Yeah. Although they are placing order today, but the delivery is yesterday. So that was the reason I said, how these 2 points can be correlated together.
Yeah, so yes.
So Anil, you have put it very well. So to answer your question, certainly Anil has given his points. I would like to touch up on something called as consolidation. Now, when I say that a company is having so many trips of truck in a year, and I can reduce those number of trips by 50% or 30%, I'm actually aggregating the complete cargo and taking it on a multimodal mode. So this gives me a control on not only the carbon emission, but also on the reliability and the TAT. Now, a company can decide, auto OEM can decide that, no, I want to have 60,000 trucks in a year, and they can keep on monitoring each and every truck. I'm saying that if 60,000 has to come down to, say, around 20,000, by having consolidated the load, it will be much more in control. Secondly, if it is giving an added advantage of CO2 reduction, that is a beneficial thing. Now, the concept of consolidation, as we are also talking about the EV industry, one example, and which is what I will not hesitate to actually project, the EV industry is getting into a direct-to-customer model as far as the distribution is concerned. So most of the EV manufacturers, they are directly selling it to the customer. Now, this opens a way. Can there be any player who can combine 4 or 5 EV companies and set up a distribution model or a solution for them? This is effectively a consolidation. The same thing I can think about on the upstream side, wherein every EV company is buying the battery cells from China or many other places. The cells is the same commodity. But every EV company whomsoever I have met, they have their own supply chain, they have their own storage, and they have a more inventory of batteries to take care of any fluctuation of supplies from China. Now, if every EV company hires a workshop, a warehouse to store their batteries and have a 2 or 3 months of inventory there, have their own supply chains for getting that, can you think about any player who can actually consolidate these demands? Because all of these are almost the same. And then we have a consolidated, aggregated solution for that on the upstream front. I feel that traditional auto OEMs who already have their own supply base and supply chain, which is already mapped out, EV companies, which are the startups, will not hesitate to adopt any of these disruptive models. And once that comes into picture, I will be having much more control because it will be an aggregated load. I'll be having measurement of my CO2 and I'll be able to tell and express how much we are gaining, not only on the CO2 front, but also on the cost front. So when we did this use case of multimodal, while the cost on a leg-to-leg basis was high, when we approached the customer and we realized that we are able to load more into the container, my per unit cost has effectively come down. And this is the gain. So once you go approach with a complete solutioning mindset, instead of an RFQ-based transaction with the auto company, you actually develop solutions. And which is where I want the collaboration happening between the auto OEMs and the LSPs so that newer and newer solutions should emerge. EV companies will steal. They will immediately adopt any unique logistic solution before even we realize. So this is the way. This is the trend.
Thank you, Jen. So it was very insightful, the debate, and we see how the Insta delivery is what is the need of the hour. So Anil has to require to be delivering to the customer right there at the same time, just like Insta Coffee. So Insta Coffee is coming to delivery systems soon, so be ready. So let's, very, very last question, but with a short answer, if there's one, to be fair. So
good afternoon, everybody. Can I ask a question, sir?
someone's all taken up.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for such a wonderful session. I am Vaibhav Lodaya from Kunanagal. So I have question. I had two questions, but I'll cut it down. So on sustainability part of it, so when we see as OEMs or manufacturers, the more focus is on scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is somewhere, as a logistics service provider, we can partner with you and, we can come into picture. As Om sir rightly mentioned that, as international LSPs, we have also given calculations on, what is on the sea or what is in the air. But now with changing times, earlier we also partnered with some providers and we paid some part of it from our pockets as well to, increase sell of, say, probably biofuel or sustainable aviation fuels. But is there any provisions in your books as a senior leadership wherein you see that, there would be, of course, cost associated with, biofuels which would be
Subsidy.
used?
Question is subsidy, right? Who's right?
Yeah, so just wanted to ask that, is there any provisions in your books as a senior leadership that you see that, okay, you are also ready to, venture something out of your pockets for betterment of environment that we see?
So who wants to take that on?
I hear you. I'll tell you, the scope 1, scope 2 is mandatory under the BSFR. Scope 3 is not. It's voluntary now. That is the only reason is that because the entire ecosystem has to also now come up. Folks like Kunanagal, clearly DP World, some of domestic players like Safe Express have developed capabilities to be able to transparently share these things. But a whole lot of others have not reached there. And for that reason, this is yet retained as voluntary. But I think the larger point, what you mentioned on a very different angle, this is something I think is a food for thought. I don't want to put somebody on the spot and make them answer something that you've been able to do. But the fact is that if there is, knowledge that has now got transferred, that yes, there is this X service or X route in which you're consuming or you're emitting so much carbon, and there is this Y route where there is 90% of that, whether you will be able to pay a little extra, whether you are willing to pay a little extra to be able to take that conscious decision. As I said, I don't want to put anybody on that spot because it's a tough answer, because when we are living in the world of RFQs RFQs and RFPs by the day, the only challenge is that, okay, how can you reduce my cost by 1 rupee or the 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees? That's all that is happening now. But there is the positive side of this is, I believe personally, the moment we get into this measurement and then management, what Mr. Om mentioned is very, very, very pertinent. The moment organizations of this nature start asking, okay, what is your carbon emission for the same trip? Effectively, it can become, if not translated into cost, it can definitely translate into a matter of choice. With all things being same, you know, an organization, a conscious organization would say, okay, willingly, let me go with the, you know, a more efficient, carbon efficient service provider than the one which is less efficient. I would say this might be the first, you know.
Hopefully you got your answer, but I think ultimately it has to be paid by someone. Could be yourself, could be the LSP, could be the government of India, or as he says, you could pay some extra for that extra thing you are getting or reducing the emissions. It's a way how you look at it. Ultimately, someone has to bear it. In short,
so just quickly add to that.
Very last.
Yeah, very last point. See, today there is some traction happening. Financing for the carbon neutrality was a key discussion point of G20. So something will come. But forget now. Today we are in relation of business. So what today is happening today? The business decision criteria will carry more weightage if you are carbon neutral. Time will come, as Om said, time will come, and we are very near. Earlier, India, we used to be a followers market. Today, because of EV, we are at par with the global world, from technology, from supply chain and thought process. So, consciousness, absolutely. So, there will be thing. I will be selected by my customer if Raymond is green, just as an example. What I will do, I will also select my partners who are green. So somewhere that once that supply chain understanding goes, I think time is very clear. So don't worry. If you are spending money now, do it, because you will be the preferred vendor going ahead. So thank you.
So with that, I think I'll have to now.
Last question. See, my
I hope
name
it's
is
a short one.
Yeah.
Can you just ask the question and skip the intro?
Okay. My name is Sunil Parade and I'm working in Bosch. We are a tier 1 supplier to Tata Motors. So my question is to Rohit. You are in sales and operations, and I am the supplier, spokesperson to the Tata Motors. You very well explained you have developed the system that on the demand part forecasting, that you get the data and you create a system which is flowing seamlessly for your production and also to your suppliers. We do witness it and we get your forecast for the next 6 months. But the point is, you also mentioned that you also monitor on what is happening actually in execution part at your production. What is the actual happening against your plan? So do you have, this is happening in your plan, because what we witness on a daily basis is not happening according to your plan, and we see a lot of fluctuations on day-to-day basis, and where we fail because
I think he's already got the answer ready.
Yeah.
So let's go.
So actually, in short, what we have done is there's an intent to improve our S&OP process, right? And for a company, traditional company like Tata Motors, who's been working from so many years in a certain way, it's not going to change overnight. But certain metrics we are bringing into the picture to bring in people to understand what is happening. We are bringing visibility. We are bringing in improving the maturity of the processes such that we are able to actually reduce the noise that goes back to the vendor base. And it's a bit of a change management. It will take a little bit of time. There'll first be some consciousness, and then actions will come in, and then you'll see results. So I know this issue that is there, because I'm on the other side where when we are getting commitments from various suppliers, Bosch stands out as saying that no, Bosch is not giving right commitment. So it's both ways.
Rohit,
but I think together we have to figure out how.
Rohit, what I would even advise is both of you could connect over lunch and continue more.
So point is that it's a journey, and I think we'll have to make sure that we stay on that journey to improve this, right?
So with that, I think we have to come to the end, and I know discussion time is limited. It could have been longer, and we can go on and go on, but sorry about that. So it's time to head to the lunch, and before that, a big thanks to CII for organizing this, to the organizers who are paying for all this, and to you all for driving down either sustainably or with green hydrogen or with EV or ICE, I don't know, but thanks for coming down all the way. And a big thanks to all my panelists here for making it dynamic and sharing as an interactive mode. Thank you all. Thank you.